All right, we're doing our usual Saturday stream. Um, I should start things off by mentioning that I was finally able to do the video I've been putting off for a few weeks due to writer's block and some other factors. So I was glad to have that come out on Tuesday. And also, I finished reading Naruto, so all of part two as well, Shippuden, because I mentioned that I was going through it and just finally reading the whole series. And everything people told me about it is true. They have a war arc that I'm supposed to believe takes place over a couple of days while it's several dozen chapters long. You know, most of the characters that aren't like 7 or 8 of them from the first series get, tossed into the dustbin, or they have this running gag where they have a character that they haven't used in a long time get like a little bit of prominence just to get killed off. It's like, hey, remember this person? Yeah, now we're gonna murder them. So Uh, overall, I still think part one is way better. And the criticism I had of the Akatsuki is still there. It's like you have this villainous group that you built up for hundreds of chapters, uh, and then we finally get to see most of their members during part two, and a lot of them follow the same pattern of like they meet one person, then they get murdered, or we see them twice and they get killed. It's stuff like that irritates me because it really shows that Kishimoto and Toriyama are two peas in the pod where they know how to like make really interesting characters, like whether it's because of their abilities, personality, whatever term you want to use, whatever way you want to spin it, and then their execution of them is what really gets me. Just that's something they have in common, in my opinion. I always have this belief that there are a lot of people who call themselves writers or who write that try to be edgy by killing off a character. And a lot of times it doesn't work because usually the character they choose to get rid of, we barely even spent any time with. So, for example, in Young Justice season two, they get rid of spoilers for anyone that hasn't seen that show after 2 years. Because I hadn't even watched excuse me, it's not season two. Yeah, it is season two. That came out not 2 years ago. That's when season three came out. That came out 9 years ago. Okay, because it premiered in 2012 and then ended in 13. So, um, in that show, the second season, because I mentioned before that they have 6 main characters in the first season, and then I'm trying to put up 6 fingers. And then out of nowhere, they have this huge time skip where they introduce all these new characters, and you're like, what the hell happened to the original 6? Um, they kill off Kid Flash after getting him off out of the main cast for season. So he's basically killed off during a season where they mostly do nothing with him. So that's why I said that a lot of times I get irritated with writers that kill off a character because usually the character they kill off we barely spent any time with, and they're really irritating for doing that because they know that they have like plot armor around most of the rest of the cast, so they do that to like make it look like, oh, anyone can die, this is so bad. And Kishimoto does that over and over. This person yesterday asked me if I was going to read Boruto. I don't know. I'm definitely not going to watch the show because I'm not interested in that. But I might read it. I don't know. I'm going to go back to American comics because I was having a pretty fun read of X-Men before. Just finally because what happened is last year I said at some point I'm going to read all of Naruto at last, and then while I was reading through X-Men, like because I always read a few issues a day, just slow progression on it. I decided, yeah, let me finally do this because I'd rather at last finally read the whole story than just keep putting it off over and over. I'm doing that a little bit with Fantastic Four, where I just keep putting off reading that. For some reason, if for me personally, it's hard to read more than one book at a time because when I read one book, like by itself, I can get through a lot of it in a short span of time. Like I could read um, 10 or 20 issues a day. And there's this thing that when I separate the book with, if I give another book time to read it as well, it's harder to get through it because I'm not giving it the same undivided attention. You know, just like if I don't focus on it, it's not as easy to get through. And it sucks because I would like to read multiple books at once, but for me to truly get into the story and actually progress through it, I just think I'm better off in the long run just sticking to one book at a time and going through that and then, jump into something else after I finish it. So at the start of it, I was like, I'm gonna read some of Naruto, I'm gonna read some of that. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna get this out of the way and finally go through it. So I'm glad we did that at last. Oh, thank you, King. I appreciate it. Do you think Neji is an exception to characters getting killed off that had little involvement in the series? Here's the thing with him. So in part one, he has three fights, right? The fight with Hinata, the fight with Naruto, and the fight with Kimimaru. And if he had died when during that, the Sasuke retrieval mission, I wouldn't have been upset at all because he was a character who at that point in the story was given probably the most focus out of anyone that was going to get killed off if he had died at that point. But in Shippuden, this 500 plus chapter saga, I can only think of two things he did: fight Kisame's clones, which wasn't even him by himself, it was him fighting them with the rest of his team, and then be impersonated by was it Zetsu? Like someone impersonates him, and then he gets killed by a tree. So uh, no, I think he's just another example. He's the character that pisses me off the most that died because he's the only one from Naruto's age demographic that gets killed, and it's just like, what the hell? You don't do anything with him throughout this entire story. No, I really despise, like, my biggest. If I had to pick one character that should not have died, it would be him because that made no sense at all. Take this prominent character during part one, shaft him for all of part two, and then kill him off all the way toward the end of the story. It was insane. I will never forgive Kishimoto for that. They don't have him get killed while he's fighting some Akatsuki member. They don't have him have a rivalry with one of them. Like all they had to do is give him two or three fights in Shippuden. I wouldn't have had one complaint because then they would still be trying to do something with him. They take this character who we have no investment with over anything in part two and just get rid of him. So I'm pissed because if I did a top 10 favorite Naruto characters, he would definitely be in it. In fact, out of the ones that are his age, he's probably outside of Naruto, Shikamaru, and maybe Rock Lee. Neji's probably my favorite. So it really sucked that they got rid of him, and it's so irritating to have these really cool characters that they don't do anything with. You know what? I don't think they do anything with her either, and that's like the biggest problem I have with it. Like I would have preferred she had died just because there is kind of like a plot armor around women in shonen. Um, so for example, out of all the women that are introduced in the main story, the only prominent ones that die are like villains, which villains in any shonen are usually going to die 10 times more likely. But the biggest issue I'd have with killing her off is it would be the same problem of they still don't do anything with her, like throughout the whole series. It's just that's why I said Kishimoto to me toward the end of it just felt like he was trying to be edgy. Yeah, I really liked him. He had a very solid character arc in part one of going from this person who is vindictive toward Hinata over the things that happen with their parents and believes that your fate is controlled by destiny, to then being just having his belief system shattered with his battle with Naruto. I just found him to be a much more interesting character than pretty much anybody they actually chose to focus on. That's why it sucks that they don't do anything with him other than the two things I mentioned and have him get killed by a tree. The only thing they've done with him since then is have him show up in the I know there's filler in Boruto where they go into like the past because apparently we're all time travelers now and they have Boruto talk to him. Great character for the series, especially in part one. He was well made. That's why I don't understand Kishimoto at all because if you think about it, even characters he doesn't use, if they're not adults, he doesn't have the weird edginess to go and say, "All right, I'm gonna kill this person off." Like he doesn't use Rock Lee that much, in my opinion, in part two at all. But he doesn't kill him off. He doesn't get put in some near death state. Like Rock Lee after part one is pretty like basically safe. He's in no worse danger than anybody else for the rest of the show. Um, so it's really weird that he took this character who he doesn't use that much and was like, well, remember when I used to do stuff with him? Let me kill him off. You know, for a pairing that isn't even going to get together in the book anyway. That's why they had to make the last movie. So I said that show is so frustrating and just who it chooses to get rid of. And we're not even talking about the Akatsuki members because that could be a whole stream on its own. And the way they were botched. Like if you weren't Itachi, Pain, or Obito, expect to have like one or two fights and just get yanked. The only one that kind of escapes that a little bit is Kazame because he does like last for a while. Like he's introduced before the rest of the team and he doesn't go away until pretty much like the halfway point of Shippuden toward the end of it. But yeah, if you're not one of those four, you're pretty much just trash as far as if you're going to get used or not. Let me make sure the audio. I had my headphones on before I started streaming, so let me make sure the audio works because that sometimes was an issue where it would sound all staticky. Let's see if it works. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm never getting over Neji's death. I'll always have a big disdain for part two over that. But like I said, that's what Kishimoto loved doing. He would just have some character he doesn't use and then bring them up, and then I'm supposed to feel bad. Like he did the same thing with Asuma, a character that like outside of that one fight with Itachi and Kazame really didn't do anything in the whole show. Uh, Gets a little bit of focus, finally speaks to Naruto at last during part two, and then gets killed off by a Akatsuki member. You know, with some very interesting powers, by the way. But it's the same thing, just like with Jiraiya. Before he goes on his last mission, he doesn't do anything in all of Shippuden other than show up and bring Naruto back to the village. Kishimoto tried giving Neji's impact and freedom from the cadet branch's curse in the worst way. I'm totally not down by destiny, even though I'm sacrificing myself for the upper branch clan person. Yeah. Even though it was my destiny to what do you call, what was the thing where they have to they're bound to support the upper branch? Like I'm totally not following that and doing it of my own free will by sacrificing myself for this person. That was terrible. And like I said, you look at all the other characters from Naruto's age group, they all get to live. Because that's the thing. Like, if my thing is, if you don't want to use a character anymore, you don't have to kill them off. Like Orochimaru doesn't get used for a lot of Shippuden, and he still somehow manages to weasel his way out of the story. Dude, if you told me back when part one was still like airing, like around the Sasuke retrieval mission and the filler after that, if you told me that at the end of Naruto, Neji and Jiraiya would be dead and Orochimaru and Kabuto would still be around, I would have laughed at you. Like, there's no way. But they actually did that. I was like, what the hell? So I guess being a villain pays, like you get to live. I can't think of any other anime manga that does what Kishimoto did. On another note, I'm glad they didn't have that time travel BS on the Boruto manga. Yeah, I know it's only filler in the show, but I was tempted to watch it because I do like Neji and Jiraiya, and I don't really I'm not too content with their deaths, especially Neji's, because for the reasons I just gave. Hey, remember they have a Jiraiya clone? They have some guy that's a clone of him. That's how you know that killing off like characters usually is a mistake. Because a lot of times they get rid of the most popular ones, and then they have to like find ways to get around killing them off. Like even after Itachi dies, you still see him with the resurrection jutsu. No, they always find a way to screw things up. This is what broke my bias about how good Kishimo's was writing. I think that's why his other series did so bad. I've never heard anybody talk about Samurai 7 ever. Have you ever noticed that every time there's a mangaka that does like a second series, if they're like they either do it before or after the main thing they're known for, it's never as popular or anywhere like I don't know any Dragon Ball fan that's not on the internet that's actually read Dr. Slump, for example. Have you ever noticed that like if they make anything else that isn't tied to that very popular thing they made, nobody cares? This guy said all these Japanese writers think they're Stan Lee. They think they can make multiple. Oh, don't tell me it's so unmemorable. It's so lacking in memorability. You forgot its name too. No, the only person that made two series I've seen people like both of and talk about equally is Rumiko Takahashi, how you pronounce her last name? The lady that made Inuyasha and Rama One Half. It's the only one. But anytime anybody else tries, hey King, imagine like the build up to the Akatsuki, and I'm thinking, oh man, they're giving us a 2-year training arc, so they're gonna have because they tell us that there's 9 of them. It's actually 10, but they tell us that there's 9 of them, and there's 11 of the Konoha ninjas. So I'm like, oh, they're gonna have each of the different Konoha ninja fight an Akatsuki member. That's so cool, man. They have Sasori show up, and then he gets oh, here comes Akatsuki Merchant. We're talking about his team. They have Sasori show up, and he has like these really cool powers. He's very intimidating. Uh, and then somehow he gets annihilated by his grandma and Sakura. And then what irritates me is that with Deidara, they have him blow up because he can't beat Sasuke. Which, by the way, that was the biggest showing of Sasuke's plot armor. There are 3 times in this series where he should have died. The first time was when he was up against Haku, and Haku threw the little pin missiles at him. I'm calling him that because I don't know what other term to use for him. He got slashed all up. He should have died. And then the second time is when Deidara blow. They don't give any explanation for how he survived that. And then the third time is when Madara nearly killed him. Those 3 times he should have died, but he has plot armor, so he was able to get away with it. The main cast would have got wasted if we're being honest. King, I've never seen a character. It's like I actually, again, reading the whole series, I don't even think Naruto has that type of plot armor. Like I think Sasuke has more plot armor than Naruto. Because I can't think of 3 times where like Naruto gets around very dangerous opponents, but he doesn't actually get hit by them. Is the thing. Like they have Sasuke get hit with these missiles over and over while they're in those ice mirrors, and somehow survive because Haku could never kill an opponent. He was so gentle. Uh, Same thing with Deidara. Deidara blows himself up when Sasuke's standing right there, and he survives. I tell you, that's always the frustrating thing. Like all these other characters get murdered, and we see them less, but then Kishimoto's boyfriend keeps surviving just over and over. It's irritating. Because, like I said, with Naruto, they don't usually have him get hit with attacks that should kill him in the sense that, like, you don't really see him have somebody blow up next to him or strike him all over the place. It's not the same stuff. Sasuke has more plot armor in Naruto than Naruto. Like he has more plot armor than the titular character. Nope, Naruto almost died twice in Shippuden, but Sasuke never gets in any crucial way. Yeah. Remember Gaara died, and then Chio gave her life? Crucial damage. Hey, but you know what really gets on my nerves about the Deidara thing is that, like, you have him attack Gaara, right? And not defeat him. And then you have him, his ultimate final battle is him getting angry because he can't beat Sasuke and rage quitting on life and just blowing himself up. And I'm like, what's irritating to me about that is, again, go back to my premise of me thinking it's going to be the Konoha 11 versus the Akatsuki. Like, if they have, like, when they had Sasuke fight Itachi, I didn't have a problem with it because that was built up literally from the start of the show. But then you let him fight and be the final battle for another Akatsuki member too. You know what I mean? Like it gets irritating because they could have really they could have Deidara fight anybody else. He could have fought Rock Lee. He could have fought Neji, any other ninja. Like that's why I said like Sasuke just gets sucked off by Kishimoto so much. Why does he have to why does he have to fight and be the final battle for two Akatsuki members? Especially one that he doesn't have any prior relationship with. Like I said, the Itachi thing, I completely, even as someone that despises the character of Sasuke, it made total sense based off of what Kishimoto had written. That he wanted the brothers to fight each other, and that was, what I'm saying, that had much more foreshadowing and build up than Deidara fighting him. It was, oh my god. No, if you weren't Naruto, if you're not a member of Team 7 or Shikamaru, you pretty much don't get to do anything against the Akatsuki. I'm so glad they let Shikamaru defeat Hidan. Like I was thinking it was, because that's the basically the full extent of the Konoha 11 actually getting to defeat, members of the team that we were supposed to be afraid of since part 1. Kishimoto made Deidara so mad over Sakura's Sharingan, it made Deidara commit a kamikaze attack. But it's weird because it's like he doesn't like Itachi. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe they'll have them fight each other. Like, what? You know what I'm saying of how you have 10 members of this team, you have 11 members of the Konoha 11, and instead of letting it be Sasuke versus Itachi, Deidara versus someone else, so we can give another character a chance to shine. Oh no, let's have Sasuke fight this person too. That's why I said I was irritated. This one guy said the Akatsuki are supposed to be the ultimate villainous organization, but then most of their members are taken out in the first, like basically the first half of Shippuden. Most of them are gone. Man, if I had it my way, it would have been Kakashi versus Obito, which we did get, admittedly. Naruto versus Pain because he destroyed the Leaf Village. Um, I would keep the Sakura versus Sasori thing. She doesn't do anything after that anyway, so it don't matter. Shikamaru versus Hidan, Kakuzu versus I don't know Choji or somebody else. You know what I'm saying? I wanted the rest of the cast to do something. That's why it sucks that they just like suck off the same 2 or 3 characters. What the hell was the point of training for 2 years to like get stronger against this villainous organization if most of the members of the group don't even have to fight members of the villainous organization ever? You know what I mean? Like what's the point of that? And that's why I said I was so angry about the thing with Neji because at least if you keep a character alive, right? There's a chance that they can do something with them in Boruto. Like I heard that they did something with Shino in Boruto. I don't know how true that is, but you get the idea that if you keep someone alive, there's a chance to come back and do something interesting with them later. And with Neji, it's like I don't get that. I have a character that barely gets used in most of the series that he's in that has like a really lame death, and then that's pretty much it. This thing that sucks is I'm still gonna have to read through this whole series with my brother because he's never he's only seen a little bit of Naruto like at the start. So I'm not looking forward to that. Not because I don't like doing stuff for them. I really am like I like part one still. I'll maintain that position, but part two just Shino is just a teacher and Boruto still an underused background character at this point. You know what? You could say that about everybody. Like from what I heard, the only two adults they actually use regularly are Naruto and Sasuke, right? And then I guess Shikamaru a little bit because he's Naruto's advisor. But that's why I don't like the premise. See, if they made Boruto and the only two new characters were Boruto and Sarada, and then maybe some third person on their team, and then it was just about the three of them, and then these different adult mentors, I would have a much easier time accepting that because then there's a higher chance of the adult characters from the previous show or series being able to do something. But that's why, like, it just seems with this show, it's just clones. Like Shikamaru's son is literally him, just with different eyes. Um, Naruto is basically just his dad. Not Naruto, excuse me. Boruto is basically just his dad, except he doesn't want to become Hokage. Like he still acts the same way. That's why I said it's so irritating that they could have used these characters more, but instead they made a bunch of new characters that are just, for the most part, copies of their parents. The way the power scaling is set up in Boruto, 85% of the cast is useless. I see no point in featuring any of them in the series if they are just going to be weak compared to new antagonists. Yeah, and doesn't that piss you off? Like, it's been what 10? I don't think they've ever explained what the gap of time is between the end of Shippuden and the start of Boruto, but it's been at least 10 years, right? Because these kids were born in some stretch of time. It's like I'm supposed to believe none of these parents trained or became stronger or actually are able to compete with, you know what I mean? Like, doesn't that sound weird to you? Like, all the kids that were in part one are now adults, and they still can't defeat these new antagonists. Like, they're just gonna keep aging and getting older and training and never being able to do anything. Like, doesn't that suck? Isn't that bad writing? You know what I mean? Like it just gets kind of repetitive after a while. Like, oh yeah, I can't wait to train for another year so that when a new villain shows up, I can not defeat them or contribute in any way. 85% of the cast is useless. I tell you, this the kind of stuff just makes me not even want to bother with that show. If I do any Boruto content, it'll be the manga. I'll read that. There's a 90% higher chance of me reading that than watching the show. Because every time I hear about it, people say it's not good. 12 to 15 years, and yes, very bad writing. Same for Dragon Ball, but we all know this. I hope you're talking about Super. Dude, that chapter of the manga that came out this week, it was so funny watching these like really big Dragon Ball channels talk about Vegeta might beat Granola. Vegeta will beat Granola. It's like, do you know this show at all? Like, have you actually watched it? Because the last time I ever like believed any of that was during the Moro thing, and that's only because they spent 9 months gassing us up with that new training he was doing, and that's like out of all the arcs, the longest amount of time we've spent with Vegeta just training. I was like, you guys are really gonna have a character train for that long so he can defeat the villain for half a chapter before the villain pulls out some ugly new transformation, and then his attack is part of some group effort. Like what? From the Boo arc to Super, everybody was made useless. Yes, dude. I have people that always like it. This is my thing, right? I think Dragon Ball post the Cell Saga is a downward slope that just goes lower and lower and lower. Um, and I always try to explain to people the Boo Saga started a bunch of the stuff people don't like. It started the fusions that don't do anything. It started the transformations that are like numbered that don't do anything, like with Super Saiyan 3. It started only Saiyans being able to do anything. It started the Goku and Vegeta show because the two of them are alone together against Super Boo for like the last 20, 30 episodes of the show. So, a lot of the problems that Dragon Ball still, it's like the cancer started in the Buu saga. Naruto's filler arcs were so boring. I don't know, Banana. I heard they used the other characters. Like, I would rather watch the filler arcs after, like in part one after the Sasuke retrieval mission than watch Shippuden. At least they used the rest of the cast. At least I don't have people trying to worry about where Sasuke is every episode. Where is he? 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 This other person said that the Dragon Balls after the Saiyan saga like take away the stakes. Like, what are you talking about? The Frieza saga, they're tied to. Well, they're not even available because Piccolo is dead for most of it. But they're tied to Guru being alive, and then in the Cell saga, after Piccolo fuses with Kami, they're also gone again. Like the Buu saga is when they literally start introducing the mechanic of, oh, somebody died? That's okay. We'll just bring him back. Does anybody remember the part where Piccolo goes into the time chamber with Buu and Goten and Trunks? And they actually say they're gonna let Buu kill them and then bring them back with the balls. They're gonna have little kids die on purpose so they can bring them back with the wish. You never saw that before the Buu saga. And every character in the Buu saga that's not Vegeta or Hercule is treated like trash. Like we're supposed to believe Goku is such a douchebag that he would have Super Saiyan 3, right? This form that can take out Majin Vegeta in an instant, but he's not going to use it and save everybody from the threat of Buu because he doesn't want to hurt his feelings. Dude, imagine being Gohan. I'm the strongest person in the world. It's my job to be the new protector of Earth. For 7 years, I'm going to slack off. And then we're going to have him get trained so he can fight the new antagonist, just so he can get smacked up when the villain, which by the way, I also want to explain this. So when Super Boo first shows up, we're told that he has like he's influenced by Fat Boo because that's why he, like when he sees Videl, he reacts a certain way and he doesn't kill Hercule. But then when Boo fuses with Goten, Trunks, and Piccolo, we're supposed to believe that they're not going to influence Boo at all because they all have like affection and strong admiration for Gohan, right? Piccolo and Goten especially. So we're supposed to believe that Boo being fused with Fat Boo stops him from killing Hercule. But we're not supposed to believe that Boo fusing with Piccolo, Goten, and Trunks would make him hesitate in wanting to like seriously wound Gohan. Like you see how it's like it doesn't connect. How it's like very situational. How the writing is all over the place. Yeah, we all did, Brandon. How does he get stronger than Goku and get whipped like he was big? He was based like from Gohan. And you know what? If you think about it, what's something else the Buu saga did? Like literally, we could go through every character in the Buu saga that's not Vegeta or Hercule is treated like trash. The only one that might be an exception is Fappu because he does have a character arc of like becoming, being this killing machine to befriending Hercule, and then like actually getting the help with defeating Kid Buu. But any pre-existing character before the Buu saga that's not Hercule or Vegeta is treated like garbage. They have Piccolo defeat Babidi, right? Just to bring Babidi back and have it be revealed that Piccolo's only 1v1 fight in that entire arc was for no reason, no purpose at all. They have him become the mentor. Well, before that, they have him frozen and not even doing anything in the whole story by spit, which is insane. They have him be the mentor for Goten and Trunks. Then they have him be fused with the villain. Then they have him be rescued just to get killed while he's unconscious and then brought back to stick his hand up in the air. Same thing with Goten and Trunks. Like you have these two children of Goku and Vegeta, and the only time anybody likes them is when they're fused. And then you have their fusion get absorbed and ultimately do nothing except make the villain more powerful. Which, by the way, wasn't even his final form. So, like, if you see the Kid Buu stuff, that literally means the whole like Buu tanks, whatever you want to use the name for that term is, it didn't matter at all because it's not even the final antagonist of the damn story. What about Videl? You're literally the catalyst for an entire arc by blackmailing Gohan into participating in that tournament. Then you get brutally beat down by some possessed version of a guy your dad beats. And then after it's established that you have this like special connection with Gohan, you don't get to see him for the rest of the series. And you sit up on the lookout and then get killed by the villain that's supposed to be influenced by your father and murder along with everybody else. Told you we can go through every character that is not Vegeta or Hercule that we can make a case for how the Buu saga ruined them or used them terribly. All of them. Told you if I would get more than 100 views, I would do a 3-4 hour review of the Buu saga, just breaking down all the problems that it has. Goten and Trunks never, I just answered that. Goten and Trunks never get taller or older throughout the entire Super series. Yeah, because listen, you know that Dragon Ball is made by people who are lazy. Why do you think we only get one manga chapter a month? While every other series that's not Boruto gets several? Because Toyotaro is lazy. Why do you think we could actually make a chart of a basic skeleton of an arc in Super, not an arc in Dragon Ball, an arc in Super, and they would all match up in several different ways because Toyotaro is lazy? I have to admit, when it comes to every element of its story, yeah, I don't really have a problem with that whole series outside of Dressrosa, and that's just because that thing just dragged and went on, and it's like you split the crew in half. They disappear for half the members disappear for most of that arc. Then your whole story is set on this one island in the span of like a day or two. That was like every other part of the show I'll praise, but I have a lot of problems with Dressrosa. I don't like, I'll put it like this. I think out of the three, Oda's a better writer than Kishimoto and Toriyama. Because I just believe that from what I've seen of their stories, like he actually has characters that he uses to their full potential. are much closer to it than Toriyama or Kishimoto do, where they both try to be edgy bastards and kill off somebody for the sake of doing that. I really hated that scene where Videl got beaten half to death by Spovovich. But like I said, man, she was an interesting character who, like, the thing with 18 in the Cell Saga is that, yeah, she kind of has a similar arc of like being introduced as very prominent and then kind of like falling off toward the ladder of it, but at least Toriyama had enough decency to keep her alive, and you didn't really see her just get beaten mercilessly by Cell. Um, so like in that arc, at least, here's a character who has like a interesting story that we're going to keep alive so we can use a later point with Videl. It's literally, this is the character that started the entire saga by blackmailing Gohan to participate in this tournament. And then when she finally gets to fight, it's against a villain she has no chance of beating, who just smacks her around like, just like, I don't even think we saw Frieza get smacked around that badly after all the evil stuff he did. And then, she just sits on the lookout, never reuniting with Gohan for the rest of the show until the very last few chapters, whenever Kid Buu was destroyed, and then gets killed unceremoniously along with everybody else by getting turned into food. And in the manga, it's even worse because it happens off screen. Toriyama was such a lazy bastard that he couldn't even draw most of the cast, literally most of the characters that are not Goku, Gohan, Vegeta, Piccolo, or Goten and Trunks, getting murdered by the new antagonist. So if you ever saw that scene where Super Buu, like, turns Krillin into chocolate and then turns everybody else, that's all filler. The guys at Toei were nicer to the fans than, as far as like giving some kind of send off to them than the actual writer, who's kind of useless. I mean, you could say about every Dragon Ball character that's not Goku or Vegeta. Hey, we saw how useful Fusion was when Buu kept staying alive and ended up absorbing and becoming more powerful with their form. Well, she's useless because Toriyama chooses for that to be the case, him and Toyotaro. Like, they could easily just have her decide, hey, I'm tired of getting killed and blown up. I want to train with Beerus. That's why I said I never blame the character. It's always the writer that is the reason for why they're written the way they are. Now, the Buu saga is the beginning of the end. Have you watched any of the what ifs of the Marvel animated? What animated Netflix series? I thought they were on Disney Plus. And then remember, Kid Buu's supposed to be the ultimate evil, and then all he does is blow up a planet where everybody is already dead, and then fight two people on the planet with nobody on it. Yeah, that's on Disney Plus. That's on Netflix. Yeah, I saw it. I thought it was all right. I mean, I'm already like I saw reviews like this. There's a group of guys that they just complain about everything Marvel does. I kind of just tuned out. They that show along with Loki and what were the other two? WandaVision and Winter Soldier. Those are they're all on Disney Plus. They incentivize people to pay for their subscription service. I remember that so many people were saying that we're not watching this. You got rid of Gina Carano. We're unsubscribing. Referring to the Mandalorian, of course. I just thought that was funny. I mean, we only saw Kid Buu close to the end of the Buu saga. He had little. Well, that's my point. That he. This is the final. I mean, like, imagine if during the Cell saga, some random new character just absorbs Cell and becomes the villain, and Gohan has to destroy them instead. Like that. That's my point. That this is the only arc where we have a final antagonist that we don't even spend most of it with. Out of all of them, Vegeta was there from the start of the Saiyan saga. Frieza was there from the start of the Frieza saga. Cell was there from probably the from what is still basically the early Cell saga. You know, it's only Buu where it's like, oh yeah, the final antagonist is this version of him that's introduced in like the last 15 chapters. I remember I drew a picture of Cell yesterday. I was talking to my brother about how you have people who actually believe that the reason that Toyotaro and Toriyama won't bring back Cell is because Toriyama admitted that he doesn't like to draw the spots. And I'm just thinking to myself, this is a man that, correct me if I'm wrong, right, is rich. He has people that can like do little, because you know that in American comics they have pencilers and inkers, which are someone will draw like pencil the comic and then somebody else colors it. So if the true reason why we're not seeing Cell again is because Toriyama doesn't want to pay somebody else to either put spots on him or to put spots on him himself. He is the laziest man in the world. I miss the good old days when Comcast gave us on demand and we can look at movies and animated shows back when Netflix and Disney Plus didn't exist. I remember on demand. I remember once I got in trouble for accidentally ordering a movie on there. Because they don't have like a pay thing. They just say watch film now, and then you click it, and then you think, okay, it's free like everything else. Like, no, you have to. I was like, what? That's what happens when cable gets expensive. Oh, I wanted to confront Brandon about his friend and his comment. Why is it every time there's a romance video, somebody writes something just like weird? Man, you should have did that when you turned 16, get a driver's license and maybe and move out of your parents' house and get a job, then get the woman you're looking for. Y'all do some backward things to do all the work. I don't know any person that is 16 that's not rich that lives in my state of California that has either a license or the ability to move out of their parents' house. Because that in this state, that's underage. Like I told you, when these people write stuff, it is like they're talking in riddles. Like, and then he says, "Then get the woman you're looking for." Like he makes getting a woman sound like you just go to the market. Like, I'll take this broad. He's going to be the next person that ends up getting banned probably, because I saw him on, he's one of these people that doesn't show up that often. When he does, he writes like weird stuff. He was talking trash about Thor on the MCU stream, and he was saying some nonsense about, I thought there was only one God, you know, as if Stan Lee is the one that created the Greek gods and Norse mythology, like those, like Marvel made those concepts. Oh my God. And giving you garbage advice to improve yourself for women, even though they don't do anything for you. I told you, you have to jump through 99 hoops, but if someone has a triangle, she's beautiful in her own way. She's perfect in her own way. Man, people do not care about men, and it shows. They're still coming at you for not conforming to their advice about getting a, yeah. I mean, it's not going to make a difference. They just write stupid stuff and it gets screenshotted and laughed at. I don't take them too seriously. Because, like I said, if they believe this stuff, they can just make a video. Like there, I mentioned in the video, there's a guy that made a video about how to get a girlfriend and has like thousands of views, and the whole comment section, people going, "Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for the advice. Thanks, I appreciate it." I didn't downvote the video. I didn't leave a nasty comment. I just kept it moving. I laughed at. I watched it, laughed, and kept on rolling. Hey, how's that one theme song go? Rolling, rolling. I told you the funniest thing about that guy is that he's one of the few people that showed they have a girlfriend, because his girlfriend was like in every video after he got with her. And he admitted that this is the only woman he's ever dated. This is the only one of all the times he got rejected. It's the only one that ever said yes. I'm like, even the guys that push the self-improvement stuff, if they can prove they've been with someone, it still doesn't match their own narrative. Like if you had this confidence transformation, because that's what these people believe, right? Confidence makes the difference. It's such a big influencer. And if you get with somebody, wouldn't you have more than one woman? Like, wouldn't you have had more than one person agree to it? Great video on the self-improvement nonsense, but really highlights just how dumb the detractors are. I told you, that's why I keep the screenshots. We can all laugh at them. I got the screenshot of the guy that thinks that watching somebody's video is the same as meeting them. I don't have to see you approach because I know from your video. We laugh. I told you the other thing is that none of these people ever show that they have like done the stuff they tell you to do. That's the other like elephant in the room, or that it's actually gotten them a woman. That's why you don't take these dating coaches seriously. I don't know what these people are. Like the guy came in my comment section with the 10 things of advice where he like sounds all angry. No proof he did any of that stuff himself. Women aren't gold diggers. That's why you need a financial balance to get with one. Uh-huh. No, they all lose their minds over this chick stuff. I tell you, the way you know the advice they're giving you is insane is if you just like apply it to the opposite sex. That's why I said in the video, if I made a video or wrote a comment where I told some woman she needs to go to the gym and have a degree and all that, it's like I would get laughed at, because everybody knows that you shouldn't have to do all those things to get a random man to like you. But for some reason, when you're talking about women, people expect you to just jump through every single goddamn hoop ever. Which, by the way, we already established that it doesn't matter how much of that stuff you do, because they'll just attack you in some other way. Like as long as you're single, they'll attack you. It's always your fault. The romance crucifixion. I really do want to make a parody video like that, just like walk around with a cross and like tie my hands, like not actually nail it, but like use some kind of CGI thing to make it look like I have nails in my hand. Like, oh yeah, we're crucifying them for not being with a woman. Even though this issue is happening to so many men, they have entire groups about it, but it's all on him. I liked and had to comment on your latest romance video. Nice intro, I must admit. I only did that because I don't want another clown stealing it and trying to, not give me credit. Hey, the return to Chameleon. Hope you've been good, and everyone in the chat. No, we were talking about the Buu saga and it destroying Dragon Ball like long term and the damage it did. Because that really is when the Goku and Vegeta stuff like starts taking place. Because that part where Vegeta is like brought back from Otherworld, up until the end of the show, it's just Goku and Vegeta. And then Super has kept that going every arc. And Akatsuki Merchant is just saying that to try and butter somebody up. We don't take his word seriously anymore. He's the same person who said that Zetsu should have his own spin-off series. So that infinite tsunami thing is really scary. The like when I was reading it last night and finally finishing the story up, the idea that you would get trapped in this genjutsu that makes you think everything is perfect while you're wrapped up in this cocoon for years as your chakra is drained from your body and you lose your personality and appearance and turn into a white Zetsu clone. That's really scary. Like I don't usually give Kishimoto credit because I think him and Toriyama have the same problems, but that actually is very disturbing, and it's literally only ever explained on one page. I was like, wait, what? When will Dragon Ball finally stop being the Goku show? The world may never know. I told you, I think that manga is gonna run forever because like people keep saying, "When's the anime coming back? When's the anime coming back?" Even though we all know that for the anime, they have to get animators, they have to get they might have to get writers because there are different people that translate stuff and adapt it for an episode. They have to get the voice actors for the manga. All they have to do is get lazy Toyotaro to sit in his little office for a month and draw 40 pages. So I think the manga is going to go for a long time. I can't see the manga stopping anytime soon. We're going to have at least 100 chapters. And they're all going to probably suck too. That's awful. Like in the moral arc, there's about 5 chapters that are actually worth reading, like in retrospect, because I'm not even counting the Vegeta training stuff. Like that doesn't mean anything to me anymore, just to know that he does all that training just to still get clapped. They have the one chapter where Boo just smacks the hell out of Moro, which I thought was really cool. It's like 2 chapters. They have one chapter where Piccolo is like intercepting these siblings that are affiliated with Moro, and he just whoops them so quickly. They have a chapter after that where it's him and Krillin fighting. That it was so cool. That's why it sucks that those like really cool moments for these other characters are tied in this arc of just buffoonery. Yeah, but Akatsuki Merchant, it's like the story doesn't really address like that whole scenario of them being trapped inside that thing and eventually turned into that is only mentioned on one page. It reminds me a lot of The Matrix, just like people thinking everything is good but not, but it's even worse because you're eventually going to turn into this other thing that's mindless. Back when fights and story actually meant something and made sense. We wait till the next DBS movie come out. It'll be if you say so. I told you. I've been around since Super started. I remember that poster they put out, and it had Goku, Vegeta, and then like some of the other characters on it. And it was like, oh, Battle of Gods retelling, the movie that was mostly about Goku and Vegeta. Okay. Resurrection F retelling, the movie that was mostly about Goku and Vegeta. And then the Universe 6 tournament poster came out with Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, Boo, and this other guy. I was like, oh, this is going to be so cool. Piccolo and Boo are going to fight somebody. And then Boo falls asleep and doesn't get any fights. Piccolo gets one fight where he gets cheated. And then when they let him have a rematch, Vegeta's like, no, step aside, ho. And then he beats the next 3 guys. I'm like, okay, well, at least they're going to have Vegeta finally be the one who is like the hero of an arc. Just to have, so he beats most of the people in the tournament just to get slapped aside by Hit. And then Goku has some fight with him that, from what I remember, didn't even make any sense. Dude, every arc of Super, other than maybe the Tournament of Power, is literally the exact same story beats, where it's Goku in the most prominent role, followed by Vegeta, and then maybe some third character has like a role that's similar to theirs. But after the Universe 6 tournament, that was it. The hype went away forever. I saw that Future Trunks arc poster of that evil Goku smile, and I was like, oh man, what are they going to do with this? They have Goku Black go to the past and fight Goku. I'm like, it's going to be so cool. They're going to have Gohan get involved because this is like trying to be similar to the Cell Saga a little bit. And then all they do with Gohan is have him finally realize after Goku, Vegeta, and Trunks have been smacked up multiple times by Black and Zamasu that something's wrong. And then like they don't have Piccolo do anything other than clean up some damage on the ground. Same thing with Krillin. I'm like, why do you even have them? Why are they here? Tournament of Power. That poster comes out. I don't even get excited. I'm like, I already know they're not going to use anybody. They get rid of Krillin, not even 3 episodes into the tournament. They have Tien literally do nothing other than knock out a guy while getting himself eliminated, which was really ridiculous. I told you that that show is just all it is frustrating. And then the Broly movie comes out and everybody's in love with it. Oh my God, new version of Broly. Ugh. Yay, more Saiyans. And then they don't even have Gohan in the really the most prominent Saiyan in the series outside of Goku and Vegeta in the movie about Saiyans. Let's not have Broly meet the original human hybrid Saiyan. No, that wouldn't make any sense. That couldn't make for an interesting interaction. So no, I'm not excited for superhero, whatever that stupid thing is called. I hope it doesn't repeat the same mistakes of the past, but I'm not falling for the same trick 6 times. No. Do you think Trunks is a rainbow? Something I don't think he doesn't. I don't even care. I don't have a channel where we talk about the sexuality of characters. I really couldn't care less. Hell, if you want to talk about a show where everybody is gay, look at Naruto. Like, have you ever noticed that of the male characters that aren't like the younger male characters that aren't Naruto or Rock Lee, none of them ever show interest in women at all. Like Sasuke literally never shows any interest. He has women swooning over him that whole show, and the only person he kisses is Naruto. Even if it was by accident, you get the idea. Yeah, I don't know what he's talking about, King, but it's like, who cares? What and like, why would Toriyama have him? That whatever. I'm not even gonna get into that. I hope he's not doing that same thing where it's like a man of a certain age who's not married or have a girlfriend. I think is because that's overdone. Gohan was always done dirty after his fight with Cell, really, even when he fought against Super Buu. Dude, the Super Buu fight was so frustrating because it's like they treat him the same way they did with Cell, where he like doesn't see the new villain and like everybody is basically taken out. He's the last hope. And then just gets completely subverted and like this really and I thought at first, okay, well, Gotenks, they're gonna have him get absorbed and then it's gonna be like a challenge. And so he just gets his last big role is getting smacked around by the antagonist and then absorbed into the villain. That's terrific. Hey, I'm not crying. Man, it really doesn't take much to impress Dragon Ball fans. I tell you, all you gotta do is introduce a new transformation. That's them every year. Did I ever tell you about that one time I was on this one person's channel and I said, I'm tired of these it was when Ultra Instinct was first being revealed. I wrote, I'm tired of these transformations, and I got called a B word and a racial slur. Did I ever mention that? Because I remember what video that was left on. I was shocked. I was like, these people are so ridiculously obsessed over this damn show that they're going to be racist toward me for having an opinion, which isn't even that the show is bad, which it actually is. But you just say you're tired of these transformations and they insult you and call you a racial slur. Just need to change the hair color in another new transformation. That's all you need to do. Yeah, because listen, Toriyama and Toyotaro, if there's any justice in this world in 50 years when they start making new dictionaries, you're going to see their pictures next to the word laziness, because that all they know how to do is just recycle the same stuff. Toriyama is so lazy that he doesn't even write out a whole plot outline. He just puts stuff on notes, and then Toyotaro has to figure out how he wants it done. Well, I mean, legendary Super Saiyan was Super Saiyan Green. We need another color template. No, this is human Transformers is what this one guy called it. Where everybody has a transformation. That's all this show is, just everybody just transforming. That's why I like the Super Saiyan 4 transformation, because it was something new and well, I mean, let's not, like actually explain it. It looked very unique, and the show doesn't cast it aside after one arc. Like from the time it's introduced against Baby, it has a prominent role in the show. Oh, I hate that too. Dude, the Zenkai boost thing got insane during the Black arc, where Black gets stabbed and he's like, is this anger that's making me stronger? It's like, no, it's bad writing. Like the only character that used to get stronger when they were angry was Gohan. Then they just passed that around to every damn body. That's why I said I hate that show so much. Toriyama might as well. And he did end the Dragon Ball series. You remember in '95, and then it got brought back with GT, and then it was dead again, and then they brought it back with Battle of Gods and Resurrection F, and then the show that looked horrible for like 2 years. No, Dragon Ball already ended, so now it's going to go forever. Like literally, the time to close the lid was when GT ended, because after that there was no new show. All we had was new games, and then there was like a little crossover manga in like the early 2000s, and that was it. And now it's just going, going, going. Yeah, Jiren is one of the worst antagonists I've ever seen for anything ever. Look at how powerful I am as I stand here in this tournament watching my comrades get knocked out over and over. With my crappy backstory that's revealed 4 episodes before the show is over. I mean, it basically already is. All anybody does is transform. Well, antagonist doesn't mean villain. It just means that he's the central antagonistic force of the Tournament of Power as the strongest person supposedly participating. I will never forgive Super for what they did to Bardock. Oh, you mean the Broly movie? Because Bardock's not in Super. Where they made him Jor-El. I hope my son is all right. I remember this one guy said, no, I'm not even going to bring it up. It was so stupid. I'm going to just let that disappear and fade away, because that doesn't need to be remembered. They need Krillin level power level. Okay. Yeah, that's the new official canon for his character. I never was either. Sarcasm. Oh, if they were strong, equal, great character to these DB fanatics. Yeah, it's weird too, because it's like, whatever. They're I don't get them at all. That's why I said I could do 1,000 Dragon Ball videos and I would always have like 10 people watching or something, because it's just a lot of these people that like this stuff, I don't get them. Like I go on Twitter, I see the new chapter come out. Great chapter. The art was amazing. One of the best. Every single chapter they say that. I'm like, all this is a stupid fight that isn't even conclusive. And it's like, these are 40-page chapters that feel like, they're the most decompressed storytelling ever. Like you waited a month for that? I just think it was stupid how easy, fast Zamasu adapted to a Saiyan body. Would think he'd have to learn how to use the Saiyan body. Yeah, the Zamasu arc was rushed. Like they have episodes of that saga that feel like they could be one episode, and then they have episodes that feel like they could be 5 episodes. I mean, they say it's fan service anytime you have an attractive woman. Like 18 is fan service, Bulma is fan service. I don't even care. Stop designing characters that are attractive for people to look at. Urgh. Hell, there was some volume of Boruto where they had some blue-haired chick with some high heels on, and people were like, "This is fan service to get people to read a dying series." It's like, I mean, I'm sorry they made an attractive design. Oops, I don't even know what that means. Like, get out of here. LO waiting a month just for the story to drag to nowhere until Goku makes a heroic come. This chapter literally did not move the story at all. The last chapter they were fighting, then this stupid form shows up. This chapter they're fighting. Like the fight still is. It's like if it was a weekly manga, like 14, 15, 16, 17 pages, I would get it. But this chapter's twice the length of a right. Like why is the story not moving at all? That's how you end up having the Moro arc going for 2 years. They just have these chapters that like I remember I talked about how they have this one chapter where the Z fighters are fighting like Moro's different minions, and it's like all of it is resolved in one chapter, and it's really, really rushed. Everybody has like 2, 3, 4 pages to do something. And then when we're getting this 1v1 with Goku versus Moro or whoever, it goes on for like 2 or 3. And I'm like, this pacing is terrible. Like, how do you have all these different fights going on and you just speed through them with like lightning speed? And then when we're getting the villain versus a person that's not even going to beat him this time around, it just drags and drags. I'm like, what is that? Wait, when did he say they were? I don't see. I mean, what do they do? Kaba at least had some character in him. Uh, well, I'm not saying they are memorable, but when you say it's fan service because a Saiyan happens to be a woman, it's like, well, if I make a human female, that's fan service. Like, do we have a rule that the Saiyans can only have penises? Like, I don't know. And I tell you, I take Kel and Caulifla any day over Jiren. At least they have personalities. Like Jiren literally can end the tournament anytime he wants and just sits there. It was really insane. No, Jiren has a really good design. He's just a very bad character. He's not interesting. He breaks the story. He doesn't like he every other Pride Trooper is better than he is. I mean, I'm not an art critic, Banana. I don't like literally with Naruto. The only thing criticism I had of the art, because I'll admit Kishimoto can draw, is that every character wears the exact same shoes. Like every single character in that series walks around in sandals. And look, maybe it's my own personal experience because my grandpa wore sandals. All this is like, this is his story. Everybody walks around wearing the same shoe. Like no other artist does that. Toriyama didn't do that. He had Goku wearing boots that looked very different from Vegeta's because Vegeta's were like these white boots. There was like a specific type of shoe that Goku, Krillin, and Yamcha would wear. It was like a little blue shoe with like white in the middle. Then Piccolo has those little brown shoes. Like nobody, no other artist just has every single character wearing the same shoe other than Kishimoto. It was so weird. I had this one guy I was talking to on Discord. Well, this one person's like, no, whatever. I'm sure there is some character in some part of the story that might not wear this, but overwhelmingly, whether you're an Akatsuki member, whether you're from Konoha, whether you're from any of the other villages, you wear the same shoe as everybody else. A little sandal. Nobody else, like if we're going to be art critics, we should criticize that. Why does everyone have the same shoe? No variety in the footwear. But like I said, stuff like that, when you consider how successful Naruto was in terms of its sales, I guess that didn't really matter. That everybody wore the same shoe. It just kind of sucks when you have a series with a lot of like unique character designs, and they all like have the same shoe. They can't afford Jordans. Well, they can afford sandals. Everybody, the whole cast. And it's not even like they're different types of sandals. Like the only character whose sandals look a little bit different are Jiraiya because he has like this big like thing at the bottom of them. All of them have that same like the feet show up in the front and it's covered by either like blue or black. Like it's the same thing over and over. Yeah, if the character is strong, they're great and awesome. What moments with his Batman wannabe crybaby backstory that has no foreshadowing is literally thrown in the last couple of episodes to give him the slightest bit of character? You realize that in that tournament, he only eliminates 4 people, but he's supposed to be the strongest person there other than Goku? And remember, Universe 7 was seen as having one of the lower ranks. So how is it that Universe 7 is supposedly... So I said the writing of Super is terrible. How is Universe 7 one of the lower ranking universes, but then they're eliminating overwhelmingly most of the people in the damn tournament? What about his fight with Vegeta was a moment? Like, what about that was memorable? What did it accomplish? What was interesting about it? Again, if you want to go with people that Vegeta fought, Toppo was way better because he went in God of Destruction mode, and it actually had some character development for the other gods of destruction, talking about his power. You know, again, like anything Jiren does, Toppo does better, or some other character does better. He is the worst central antagonist in all of Dragon Ball by a country mile. Bland, can break the story anytime he wants to, but chooses not to. Just trash. The only good thing about him is his character design, and that the Pride Troopers actually do have like some cool looks and whatnot. The rest of them, other than that, you can toss him in the trash. I'm sure you did. We all wanted to forget about it. I know you're having PTSD from watching that garbage show, but you know, I sat through that same series. I remember this. Very Blandio. Oh, don't even get me started on the tournament in the manga. That was dude. Even the like Dragon Ball channels that pretend Super is good. They were saying the Tournament of Power in the manga is garbage. It's extremely rushed. It has fights that don't make any sense. Roshi versus Jiren, what? Gohan versus Kefla. And then it's even more the Goku and Vegeta show because at least they let Jiren eliminate Vegeta in the show. He stays there all the way to the end with Goku. I'm like, what is? It's like Toyotaro rushed through the tournament so he could get to the Moro arc, and then we got with that. And I'm like, I wish he could just gotten a longer tournament because at least then characters would have actually been able to do something. Yo, people out here really believe that Vegeta will become the new god of destruction and Goku will be his angel. Well, they can keep on dreaming. If you think they're getting rid of Beerus and Whis just like, you know, like that, I have a bridge to sell you. Nah, Super is just boring characters. They barely use any of the ones that are actually interesting. Just a travesty. And if they do have an interesting character, it's usually something that is from before. Like Frieza, a character I was sick of. By the time the tournament came around, was more interesting than anybody they made up for the tournament. Like the dynamic of an antagonist working with, you know, to save his universe, like to keep himself alive. You know, I think that would have been better with Cell, but whatever. Toriyama doesn't like to draw spots, even though he's not drawing anything anymore. That's why I did the video. Frieza is overused, and even in the Granola arc, the current story, they're talking about bringing him back now because the main antagonist is like hating. He hates Frieza, so there's a chance he'll show up in this arc too. They just can't get, and it's like they don't bring back any other villain besides this one. That's why I said Dragon Ball is just Super is weird. So many characters were just forgotten or tossed aside in Super, and I've not even seen Super fully either. Hey, you're not missing much. As someone that sat through that damn show from, I skipped the retelling arc because it's like, why do I have to watch the same movie except stretched out and uglier looking? As someone who watched from the Universe 6 tournament to when the show ended and then kept like reading the manga, it is bad. There are very few. If you want, I can recommend specific episodes and chapters that are like actually like they do use a character they don't use that often. But other than that, just you're not missing anything. I like Frieza, but I'm sick of him now. Like I said, if they want to have it be a trilogy of the Frieza saga, the Golden Frieza arc, and then the Tournament of Power, right, as like the Frieza story of just like these trio of appearances of him, I would say whatever. But then they brought him in the Broly movie, and now the main antagonist of this arc has a vendetta against him, so he still might show up. They just can't get rid of him. We don't get to see Cell anymore. We don't get to see we do get to see Fat Boo. We don't get to see Super Boo or Kid Boo anymore. Only villain they'll keep using over and over is Frieza. Right, I forgot he was in the Broly movie. That was just weird and out of place. Dude, this guy saw my channel that no other antagonist in anime has shown up this much. Like, I agree. Like, Frieza saga, right? Then he's in the start of the Trunks saga. Remember, he shows up on Earth as Mecha Frieza. Then he's in the Golden Frieza, saga / Resurrection F movie. Then he's in the Tournament of Power. Then he's in the Broly movie. And that's only counting the stuff that's canon to Super. He's in Fusion Reborn. He's in GT. Like, what the... I was all right with Fusion Reborn because that was just a cameo. When he shows up out of hell and recognizes Gohan as a little kid from Namek. And Gohan just punches him once and he's dead. Yeah, we're all sick of Frieza, except these fans. They like him. I actually have seen some fans on the message forums on that Konzenshu garbage, terrible, mediocre monstrosity of a website saying that they're sick of him too. I really was confused why they brought Frieza. I mean, my thing, and I'm not someone who defends GT that much, but you get the idea that in an arc where they're bringing back literally almost every antagonist in the entire series, where it makes sense to give Frieza and Cell some kind of like role, like something to do or at least appear in it. You get where, like, yeah, you could say Frieza being an arc doesn't influence them, but it's like this is an arc where they bring back all the villains. They open the portal to hell, and all these villains start showing up. It's like if they bring back Dr. Gero in GT, they're gonna definitely bring back Frieza. Man, it's crazy. When I first saw it as a kid, I was like, I would have never thought that would be one of like 5 or 6 Frieza reappearances after the Frieza saga. But then that's the only time we've seen Cell in anything outside of the Cell saga. And, like filler in the Boo saga as well. It's like, wow, they will not touch him with a 10-foot pole. That's crazy. I would have settled for them making Cooler canon than reviving Frieza 5 times. Exactly. They could have had Cooler come to Earth during Super. Hey, you killed my brother. I finally am strong enough to kill you all. But no, we gotta bring Frieza back with his ugly, new, lame, boring, recolor form. Where'd he go? Did Roman King leave? I guess he did. Oh well. I appreciate what the donation he gave. I'm thankful for that. I said thank you when he sent it. No, I would if I was them, I would have brought Cell back. I could write a whole. At one point, I was going to do a whole video about like a second Cell saga, right? And for the record, his transformation was way doper than Golden Frieza. I thought you said Goten Frieza. I was like, is this? But you get my point. They don't bring back any villain other than Frieza, and then it's like they bring back Broly, but it's technically not the same Broly, so it still is like we've only seen that version of the character one time. It really sucks, you know, because I do like, even if I think a lot of the villains are bland, I don't think they're any worse than Frieza, and some of them have really interesting powers like Janemba. I even had an idea I floated last year about having Janemba be able to use, like be a vampire, like absorb people's energy, and just like he feeds off of it, and he's like that's his whole purpose as a demon. Like he comes back to life by feeding off enough people on Earth. I didn't know what the deal is with Golden Frieza. I'm assuming he's only in Super. He's in Resurrection F, which was turned into a saga in Super, and then anytime Frieza shows up after that, he uses that stupid form. That's the movie where we get the blue-haired Super Saiyans that are so much stronger than the regular ones, with the worst name out of all of them. Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan. I told you, if you didn't see Resurrection F, you didn't see any of this stuff. Like you're really not missing much. Like again, there are some episodes I really like of Super, um, either because they give focus to some character I think is cool or that they haven't done anything with, and there are some chapters of the manga I think are good, but for the most part, it's not really worth wasting your time with. All it does is make me want to make that fan Dragon Ball show even more. I hate how Super Saiyan 2 and 3 are obsolete now. That's the courtesy of having a show that just runs on transformations. Like even God, right? That's a form that's not even 10 years old. That was the form that people were talking about. Dude, I remember when before Resurrection F came out, people were making like hack versions of Budokai Tenkaichi 3 where you could play as God. Because it was like this, they were like, oh, here's Super Saiyan God Gohan, here's Super Saiyan God Vegeta. And now no one talks about that form because it's obsolete even quicker than, like Super Saiyan still shows up time to time. God was like, it just vanished in the show between Battle of Gods and the Universe Six tournament, not the Universe Six tournament, the second tournament, the Universe Survival one. Yeah, I saw that trash. I read the manga. Unfortunately I have to. I had the misfortune of seeing the eyebrowless I want to be Super Saiyan 3, but the writers won't let me that they put up there. Hey, we didn't even get to finish our Boo Saga roast that we did earlier. Like I was gonna mention they also screwed up 18 because it's like you have this woman who is more powerful than pretty much any character that's not Goku, Vegeta, who are both dead for a good chunk of the arc. Gohan, Piccolo, and then maybe Goten and Trunks, and then like you don't have her fight Boo at all. And then when she does get to briefly encounter Boo, she just gets turned to chocolate like everybody else. Because that was another problem with that character, that he just randomly turns people to chocolate. Like that power you would think breaks the story, but he could, Kid Buu could use it against Goku, but he doesn't. Or at least it misses. Like all they had to do was just have it miss, and then she could actually have a 1v1 with Super Buu. Which she wouldn't have to win, but it was, it's like that's one of your strongest characters in the whole show, and you literally like she doesn't even get to fight the new antagonist. Completely missed opportunity. I've never thought about that. What have you never thought about, Game? '18 was stronger than damn near any character that is alive, other than maybe 4 or 5 people tops, and they don't even have her fight the new villain. Yeah, she never gets to fight Boo. And it doesn't make any sense because, like, you know, this arc is one of the first ones where characters are not all just randomly stronger than somebody. So we know that she's still stronger than pretty much everyone that's alive, besides the kids, Piccolo, maybe, and even that is debatable, Gohan and Vegeta. And they don't have her fight any of the forms of Boo at all. And she encounters Super Boo, and their entire interaction is off screen. Because that scene of her getting turned to chocolate is filler from the show. It just really sucks, just to have a character that is very interesting just in her makeup in the show, and then they don't do anything with her. Like, outside of the Super 17 arc and the Tournament of Power, you really don't see them attempt to do anything with 18, and it's a damn shame. In Super, she gets one-shotted by Beerus. She gets killed off screen in the Frieza, the Golden Frieza saga. She's in the Goku Black arc, but she doesn't get to fight Goku Black. That for some reason it doesn't register them. Hey, maybe we can actually have the good version of 18 try to save the timeline that the evil version of herself ruined. Never crosses the writer's mind. They just won't use her, and it's really irritating. Because people are like, oh, she's nowhere near as strong as these. It's like, yeah, but during the Boo saga, she is one of the strongest characters, and she doesn't get to fight. She's treated the same way as, like, Videl or some other, person that's just regular, It really is mind-boggling. I appreciate that Super exists, but I still always come back to DBZ. I kind of just accept its flaws. Well, for me, it doesn't really have that much flaws until we get to the Boo saga. That's when it just... We had a whole section of this stream talking about how, like, every character that's not Vegeta or Hercule is ruined in the Boo saga, or treated very poorly compared to how they were beforehand. And again, I'm not someone who hates it. I like all the forms of Boo. I think they're all interesting looking, but the only one that actually is a real character that gets development is Fat Boo. The Boo saga went on too long and had too many plot twists. And it's the only arc out of the 4 major arcs of Z where the main antagonist is not there from the start or close to the start. So Kid Boo, as the final villain, shows up all the way at the end. And that's why Toriyama tried to be edgy and have him destroy Earth to make him seem like he was a threat, even though he's weaker than Buhan, the form of Boo fused with Gohan. And it's like this is your final battle of your entire manga, and you're only going to have Goku and this guy that didn't show up until the second half fight the villain. Everybody else just sits on Earth dead. That's your final battle in your entire manga, really? Dude, out of all the Dragon Ball shows and series, Z has the worst final battle. Like in the original Dragon Ball, that final battle with Goku and Piccolo Jr., classic. That final, that ending of GT where he rides off, with Shenron, classic. Hell, even the ending of Super, at least, they let 17, like they let somebody else actually win or save the day. That ending of Z, that final battle, all of it is just, ugh. Yeah, that was kind of weak. That's why I said, imagine if instead of having it be Goku and Vegeta versus Kid Boo, they kept using Super Boo, and then they wished back Gohan, Piccolo, Yamcha, Tien, 18, and like actually had like all the major fighters of the show all team up to beat Boo, like all use their powers on him and blow him to pieces. Wouldn't that have been better than let's use the same move that failed during the Frieza saga again? Remember the filler scene where Fat Boo tries to flee? Yeah, where he like where she's like screaming at him. Yeah, I remember. Dude, I remember the one thing Super did that I thought was actually kind of cool, and it's not in the manga, so people will call it filler, even though Super does not have filler. Like like you know I'm talking about. The manga does not. It's not the same thing as with Dragon Ball the show and the manga, where the manga is like the canonical whatever. So there's a scene in Z where Boo transforms into this guy called Barry Karn, and it's like it's like a gag, right? Make his face look like this other person, and then in Super, Barry Karn actually shows up, and it ends up becoming a villain for like like 2 episodes. I thought that was like really cool, like unintentional foreshadowing. Like I said, Super has some episodes I like, but the whole thing overall, I wouldn't touch with 10 people. It's the best way to put it. Some goofy but a cool callback. Well, I'm just saying that I was surprised they actually remembered to do something like that, or remember a detail that was as small as that. You brought up a good point, though. I always wondered how fights would have went if they just all ganged up on the villain at once. Yeah, the only time we get to see everybody fight together is against Vegeta, when it's Goku, Gohan, Krillin, and Yajirobe versus him. Outside of that, we don't really get to see the like a whole, like against a main antagonist, a whole team fight him. We never get it. And it's a shame, because it would be way cooler to me if like some ultimate villain, like who's just so powerful, is defeated by people who are all weaker than him coming together, and like it proves the value of these different fighters, that even if they're not strong enough to do it on their own, they have to do it together, you know? No, I'll never forgive Toriyama for not having 18 fight Boo. That's insane. They treated her like a regular old housewife in that arc. She only gets to fight one. She only gets one fight in the whole arc, and it's against Goten and Trunks disguised. It's so stupid. What is this? They just stand by and take turns like an old kung fu movie. Yeah. And it starts to not make any sense when you get to this, like the really strong opponents. Like one of my favorite parts of Z is Krillin, Gohan, and Piccolo versus Nappa, because it really feels like, yeah, we're the last line of defense. We have to beat this guy. We can't sit here doing this tag team BS. We have to win. That's why I said that this series is so frustrating, because Toriyama like forgets his own stuff, and like it's like, forget what we wrote before that was way more creative. Just like with the Saiyan saga, I always go back to how the arc has one of the best twists ever, because they make it seem like Goku's going to come and save the day, like he's done before, right? And then he doesn't. He loses, and then Gohan and Krillin have to come and help him out, and it doesn't feel like you wasted our time, because we actually saw these characters train. It felt earned on the end of everybody. I mean, we all know she would have gotten murked, but dude, you know what? Don't sit here with that power level stuff, because the writer can make anybody as strong as they want. You could have said Gohan would have been murked by Frieza, but he still somehow survives the Frieza saga. You could have said Tien would have been murked by Cell. He still somehow survives multiple encounters with him. I don't know why they do that, man. Like, come on, you really think 18 would have been? No, I think she would have lost. But like I said, I'm not going. I don't think it makes any sense to say, oh, why bother having her fight Boo if she's going to lose, when we had Boo fight Gotenks, Gohan, Vegeta, Goku, and guess what? They all still didn't win at various points. So I don't see what would be the problem of having the strongest woman in the series and one of the strongest fighters in the show at that point, period, actually get to fight a form of Boo. Now, you do pay attention to power levels. Do I really think 18 would have beat Boo? If Toriyama wanted her to, he would have. I thought Gohan was going to beat Boo based off of what Toriyama was presenting me with, and then he did his little stupid plot twist. I see your point. Yeah, shame when your most important match of the saga is against Mr. Satan. and it was all downhill from there. Remember the scouter? Yeah, that they got rid of that thing very quickly. I remember I thought that was so cool, like this thing you put up against your eye and it covers it up and reads power, how strong somebody is. But see, that's why they got rid of it during the Frieza saga, because they know, like Toriyama knew, what's the point of having these things if I'm just gonna have somebody that's stronger become weaker overall, in the grand scheme of stuff. It's over 9,000. Do I really think 18 would have beaten Boo? I mean, before I saw the Cell saga, did I really think Gohan would have beaten Cell? No, I wouldn't have. Dude, the only reason Goku beats most of the villains is because somebody writes that. This isn't. Oh my god. Do people treat shonen like it's what do you call it? Like it's science, like, do you really estimate that Piccolo would have been able to defeat Moro in the Moro arc? It's like, I guess not, but that's only because he wasn't written to beat him. If Toriyama or Toyotaro, I guess at that point, would have wanted him to win, then that would have been it. They just come out here with this logic and stuff. I'm like, come on, man. It's all written by somebody. If they want a character to win, they have him win. Just like somehow at the end of Z, they had Oob fighting Goku and like not getting destroyed immediately, which now makes even less sense because of how much stronger Goku is. But they're still going to find a way to retcon it or make it to where he can do it. But that's why I said it's like don't ask me if I really think this character would have won. It's like I don't think they would have won just because they're not Goku. Like if they were him, they would have won because Toriyama wanted it to be the case. He could have made Vegeta actually kill Fat Boo, but he didn't. He just had him blow himself up and waste everybody's time, and only succeed in writing himself out of a good chunk of the arc. Do you really think Piccolo would have beaten first form Cell? It's like, well, no, but that's only because Toriyama didn't want him to beat him because he wanted to have him, be the final antagonist against Gohan. And like I said, like you can't have an entertaining battle where the hero doesn't win. Like, I mean, I guess we could have seen 18 fight Super Boo, right? And like maybe he doesn't want to use his chocolate beam or just whatever explanation Toriyama would give. And then I would think that would be an interesting fight based off like Piccolo doesn't beat 17, but that fight is still considered one of the best in the whole series. And really the last major fight between characters that aren't Saiyans, like without a Saiyan being involved. I mean, you don't always have to have the protagonist win for it to be entertaining or for it to matter to the story. Like Jiraiya doesn't beat Pain, but that loss still actually ends up contributing greatly to the rest of the arc. Just as an example from Naruto. Do I really think 18 would have beat Boo? It's like, yeah, if Toriyama wanted her to. Like, did I really think 17 would come back and be able to fight Jiren and all these other people that were way stronger than first form Cell who easily defeated him during the Cell saga? No, but Toyotaro and Toriyama wanted them to. Yeah, part of the reason I like Bio Broly at all is because it gives 18 some shine as a fighter. Yeah, that's my favorite of the Broly movies because it actually focuses on a group that's not Goku. It's like the only film that doesn't focus on Goku, Vegeta, or Gohan out of all of them. So I really like that one. No, I can't believe you would ask me that. It's different from the status quo of DBZ movies, but that's what makes it interesting. Yeah, when you do something like one of my favorite issues of Spectacular Spider-Man is I think it's issue 88, where it's like the whole issue just focuses on Jameson. He just going around doing stuff, and like it's all about him. And like I find it interesting because we usually just don't get to see that that insight into his mind. Like doing something different isn't exactly always a bad thing. Hell, the whole purpose of wanting to do my own Dragon Ball story would be that each arc a different character would beat a main antagonist instead of this we have to wait for this one person to save the day all the time. Do you really think 18 would beat Boo? Dude, I could just picture him wearing like a lab coat. I mean, like, do you believe this person, under the calculus of their strength, would be measured? But it's like, no, the writer decides who wins. And Toriyama, like, if he wanted to, he could make anybody the person that beats the villain. Like, go back and read the King Piccolo saga, and then the tournament after that. I had no reason to, if I was reading that without knowing what happens in Z, I have no reason to believe that Goku's going to have a kid that's going to end up getting more screen time than him more often than not. But Toriyama willed that to be the case. So. I like Broly's second coming for the same reason, focuses on Goten, Trunks, and Videl. Yeah, I just kind of I'm not really the biggest fan of Goten and Trunks, so that's probably why I'm not as into it. I like it, just not as much as the other ones. Megumi, do you really believe that? What's an example? Let me think of something. Damn, I'm trying to. There's some idea I have. Now I just remember there's actually I was thinking of like just matchups. I remember there's a video game intro that has Gotenks fighting Kid Buu. I was like, wow, we never got to see that in the show. The two little small, overly powerful fighters never get to encounter each other. That is really wasted. That'd be cool seeing like like two fighters that have like the child theme going on against each other for the fate of the universe. They always find a way to ruin everything. Dude, if I read again, if I was just reading Dragon Ball for the first time and I see 19 and 20 pull up and they go and you have 19 like basically I know he's helped by the heart virus, but he beats Goku. I wouldn't think that Vegeta's gonna randomly show up with Super Saiyan and now be able to defeat him. Anything Toriyama wants to happen, he can make it happen. He could have decided after Z that after Dragon Ball and when Z started, screw Goku, have him actually stay dead against Raditz. Now Piccolo's the protagonist. Like, he would have gotten backlash, but it still would have. He could have willed that to be the case. I just hate it when people do that, where they're like, "Do you really think this would happen?" It's like I'm just going off of the fact that somebody writes this stuff and that they've been shown to be this way. Imagine if the series ended after 19 and 20. Hey, that's a reason we were going to get. Well, not the series ending with them, but them being the actual main antagonists of the Cell Saga. Because I already went over that story. Toriyama made 19 and 20. Then his editor said, "I don't want no clown and geezer as the as the final antagonist." And then he made 17 and 18. He said, "I don't want these brats." And then he made Cell, and he was like, "Ugh, he's ugly. I hope he can transform." And then he gave him the second form, and he said, "Oh, he's a buffoon. Give him his third form already." And then that's when we got Perfect Cell. That's like 4 or 5 interventions by the editor. That's the only time someone like complaining to the author actually made a story better. Gumi said LOL. No, Toriyama could make it the story any way he wants. Just like with Super, they could have had it. You remember the first, I know you didn't see it, Megumi, probably, but the first episode of Super is about Goten and Trunks. They could have had the whole show be about them, just traveling around, fighting people. I probably would be more interested in that than I'm so sick of Goku and Vegeta. I probably would be more interested in that than, what we currently get. Imagine Toriyama really did that. He's like, All right, Goku's dead after fighting Raditz. He's never coming back. Now it's about Gohan, Piccolo, and Krillin. That's how the Garlic Jr. saga was about the three of them, Vegeta in space. Right, I remember reading about that somewhere. I really hate how OP Cell was, how he just came back to life after self-destructing. Like he had, and you know what? I don't mean to, like, well, I'm not cutting you off because you wrote that, but in the Super manga, it's revealed that, and this is crazy to me, the Cell Juniors survived as well because they're in the wilderness and they encounter Goten and Trunks while they're like protecting 17's environment, and then they recognize that they have the Army Ranger outfit on that 17 wears, so they leave them alone. So apparently all of them survived. Yeah, go on the Dragon Ball wiki. Go read, go type in Cell Jr. You'll see it. And they're revealed in the manga for Super to have survived being blown up by Teen Gohan. Yeah, it's all the writers doing. They decide who will beat who. Yeah. I mean, if you think I made that up and I'm secretly Toyotaro in disguise, you can go on the Dragon Ball wiki, type in Cell Juniors, and you'll see where there's an extra like page or two of a chapter where it reveals that the Cell Juniors are still alive and they've been tamed by 17, and they live on that island that he protects with the rare animals on it. I tell you, you'd be surprised when people don't even bother with the manga. They're like, whatever. That's just so weird and unneeded. You know what? I would say the same thing too, but if Toyotaro brought them back so they can bring back Cell, like they can go and sneak and get the Dragon Balls and bring Cell back, I'm not going to have any problem with that if that actually ends up happening. Interesting. See, this is why the manga is advantageous to read. I never knew that. Well, no, it's not in the original Dragon Ball manga. It's in the Super manga. Like, they don't show up in the anime of Super. They're in the manga, revealed to have lived. I wouldn't either. I take that over Frieza coming back for the 30th time. Oh my! If you count the video games, he actually probably has come back 30 times. Somebody said that that Dragon Ball is Sonic and Frieza is Eggman. We already did a DC comparison with Dragon Ball. We were like, Vegeta and Goku are Batman and Superman, and Gohan is Wonder Woman, because anytime those two don't get something, she gets it even worse. Like, always perpetually stuck as the one getting the least amount of attention. Dude, they said Cell was what's that villain from the Memphilis, yeah, and then Boo was Chaos from Sonic Adventure. Like, that actually is kind of true, because like Boo and Chaos both have like that gooey thing going on where they can like turn into pieces and stuff, and then they don't show up. That does work. Dude, I remember when Super Smash Flash was going on, people say, when are Shadow and Vegeta coming? When are Amy and Gohan coming? When are Espio and Yamcha coming? When are Vector and Tien coming? When are Shiatsu and Charmy coming? When are 18 and Rouge coming? When are Boo and Chaos coming? When are Goku Black and what's that one from Archie comic? When are Goku Black and Scourge coming? When are Sally and Launch coming? I used to play it too. I just remember that gag we had. We would just come up with all these different analogous characters. Oh my god. Oh, you know what? I just got it wrong. It was when are Metal Sonic and Goku Black coming? That's when we would say. And then it was when are Cell and Memphilis coming? When are future Trunks and Silver coming? Those similarities in Sonic are likely intentional. Yeah, I know. That's yeah. Super Sonic showed up the year after Super Saiyan was created. I know. I just thought that was funny. There's like a character that always coincides with it's really crazy. Because I've seen people do Dragon Ball Naruto comparisons. I don't think it's as like clear cut as the Sonic stuff. Because Sonic literally has a form that is called Super, returns gold. Like it's a lot more clear cut with them. This one guy was driving himself crazy. He was like, Gohan and Amy don't have anything in common. Like, dude, they're both of the same species as the main protagonist, or as the supposed main protagonist. In the same way that Shadow and Vegeta are, like where they're the same species and the rivals. Like it's not hard to come up with. He was like, does Sonic have this? I was like, no, that's why we make that comparison. Like, yeah, Naruto wouldn't work as a comparison. Now, I've seen some people do some decent jobs of comparing them, but I still think they're very different from each other. Naruto has way more characters than Dragon Ball does. Like Naruto probably does a better job of remembering characters, but it has way more than like, if we actually went through and counted protagonists, right? Naruto would have way more. Because that Z Fighter group isn't really that big compared to like the Konoha 11, and then when you include the different teachers and the Hokages, it's like there's way more in Naruto. And usually Dragon Ball villains like operate by themselves. In Naruto, like all the antagonists have a bunch of henchmen. I stopped keeping up with Naruto during Shippuden. Well, so did I, but I finally this week sat down and read that 500 chapter conclusion, and the end of it had left a bad taste in my mouth. I'm gonna destroy the village and bring chaos to everything. You're my friend, okay? And then they hold hands. I'm good. We mean there's too much. Hey Megumi, did you agree with that Gohan Wonder Woman comparison that like out of the big three, because Gohan pretty much is like the third most, I'd say, significant like popular character from what I've seen of like polls. Maybe you can switch him out with Piccolo in terms of who's getting more sprint, but you get the idea that like the like Saiyan trio, like of those three, he's the one that's used the least of like the prominent ones from Z. Dude, have you ever read those old Justice League comics, the original ones? They were like that with Superman and Batman, where they would have issues, right? Because you remember the original team was those two: Wonder Woman, Martian Manhunter, Aquaman, Flash, and Green Lantern. And there are a whole bunch of issues where Superman and Batman don't even appear; they're just on the cover. They're off doing their own thing. It's just like with Goku and Vegeta; they just go off and do their own thing. I think Piccolo would be Knuckles. Yeah, it was Piccolo as Knuckles and Tails as Krillin. Because people say that Frieza is Joker because they both have the like white skin and the. I mean, Joker like wears purple. Frieza is purple. I mean, it's the same thing with Orochimaru. Like he's clearly based off of Frieza. Like people have made comparisons between them for a long time. It's a very accurate, dude. It took Wonder Woman 70 years to get her own movie. Like, and by the time she got one movie, Superman had what 5, 6, and Batman had like what 5, 6. Well, let's count. Let's see. Yeah, because I'm not counting you could count the 60s films. I'm just gonna go up from 89. You had the 4 Schumacher ones, / Burton ones, whatever. Then you had the Dark Knight trilogy. Then you had BVS. So not counting the 60s one or the animated ones, which that's going to end up being somewhere in the 20s or 30s. Jesus Christ. Um, that's like what, 8? And then with Superman, you had the 4 with Christopher Reeve. God, that 4th one. You had Superman Returns, Man of Steel, so that's 6. So you see how by the time she just finally got the like spotlight of having a film, it had already been done several times over with the other 2 members of the DC Trinity. Even Supergirl, who originally was an off-brand, gender-bent version of Superman, got a movie before Wonder Woman, several decades before her too, and a garbage CW show, by the way. If Orochimaru is Frieza, that must mean Haku is Zarbon. I always really liked Haku. I don't know why they got rid of him. I would have rather have seen, him come back to Elite Village and whatever. I want to get into my Naruto fanfics. He was a way better character than most of the people that come after him. Dude, did you ever notice that like Naruto is literally like X-Men voice actor heaven? Like Zabuzan Orochimaru are Wolverine, Haku is Storm, Gaara is Nightcrawler, Kiba is Gohan. That's another thing, but you get the idea. I just thought that was funny. No, they purposely tricked us with Haku. Like you give him a woman's voice, kind of like a long hair. I mean, come on. And there are some fan stories I've seen where people actually say Haku is a girl. They just say, no, forget the reveal. I don't care. Megumi, all these comparisons are accurate. I'm trying to think what else is similar. Like Piccolo, I guess, would be Martian Manhunter. Maybe. Because I don't want to say he's him just because of the way they look, but more so because I'm trying to think of because Piccolo is probably the 4th or 5th most prominent Dragon Ball character in terms of appearances. Like I mentioned before, if you read the original Dragon Ball manga, the most recurring character that's not Goku is Krillin. And it's only with Super that they've started using him less than GT and the rest of that. But the 2 of them and then Yamcha and Tien would make out the rest of they would all individually fall under like Flash and Green Lantern, Aquaman, and Martian Manhunter. Who do you think could play Wolverine in the MCU? I guess Hugh Jackman again. If they want to use him, I don't know. Because right now I'm trying to get through the X-Men comics. I'm trying to get to Giant Size X-Men #1 where we get the start of the team with Wolverine. And then he's got 300 issues of his own series I got to read. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I just thought that was funny, the DC Dragon Ball comparison. Yeah, Piccolo is a very prominent character in the series, yet in Super, he is used as somewhat of a side character. And this is my thing, right? Even in, how do I explain it? Even if after the Cell Saga, he doesn't really get to fight anymore until the Tournament of Power and the Moro arc, where he does, to his credit, to the credit of the writers, actually get multiple fights. He still is used much more prominently than almost any other character in the series that's not Goku or Vegeta or, Beerus and Whis. Like out of the ones that showed up in the original manga, because he's the only one from the tournament that pops up in the Broly movie that's not Frieza or Goku and Vegeta, and something that's not a cameo. And he he's the most recurring character in the Moro arc that's not Goku, Vegeta, or Moro. So he is like, you could argue, the third most prominent now. I've like replaced Gohan in that way, but I still would say it's Gohan because he still shows up fairly regularly as well. One day I'm just gonna go through and count all the chapters of Super and see how many like different characters are in, just to make my point of like them not using people anymore. And also GT when he just got one shotted by Baby Gohan's sad fate. I told you I hated that so much. It's like Piccolo is absent from this show all the way up until he saves Goten like out of nowhere, and then he just like he has 1 minute of screen time in that whole arc until the episode where he sacrifices himself. And after he dies, they don't talk about him. They don't say they miss him. Like after that one episode, completely, you never even happened. I hate what they did with Piccolo and Super. I hate it too. But I do think the Tournament of Power and the Moro arc, and I guess to an extent the Broly movie, are at least trying to do more with him. I think they've made an effort. Because in the Moro arc, he gets multiple fights. In Tournament of Power, he gets multiple fights. Again, he's the only one from the Universe 7 team that's not Goku, Vegeta, or Frieza that shows up in the Broly movie. So I do think that I give them credit when they do stuff right. But like I said, the Granola arc, it's just Goku and Vegeta. Just again, they had like one chapter where there's like a page of Chi Chi, and that was it. I was like, this damn manga. I was like, don't you ever get tired of using the same two characters year after year, arc after arc? Like, that's why the chapter, and I'm gonna find the number for, I think it's like 52 or something. The chapter where Piccolo defeats those different siblings, it's gonna probably be my favorite chapter of the whole Super manga because it's different. It focuses on someone that's not Goku or Vegeta and actually makes them look cool. But with that show, it's just the same thing over and over. This guy said the Z Fighters are the Justice League. That's why when Batman and Superman like get movies made about them or different stuff, all their other members just get shoved to the back burner. And it's the same thing with the Z Fighters, where it's Goku and Vegeta get all these different arcs where they're showing up, and then the rest of the characters might pop up every here and now, and then not even do anything. Okay, so Frieza is Joker, and then I guess I don't know, Cell is there's got to be some villain. Because like if we were doing a Marvel comparison, I would say he's like Ultron or something. But there's some villain you have that he could be fit into a box of. Like you'll be surprised how much fiction just unintentionally. Because I don't think Toriyama has ever talked about liking Marvel or DC. So you'd be surprised how much of the stuff just coincides with each other. It might be an unpopular opinion based on what I see online, but I didn't care much for how much shine they gave Roshi. I thought he was retired after the King Piccolo arc. What the hell is this? And remember in Z, they say that he's weaker than everybody out of the guys. Like he's weaker than Yamcha, he's weaker than Tien. That's why I said that. Like sitting here and going, do you really think this character would have done this? Like I didn't think they would have Roshi fighting Frieza soldiers and Jiren. Don't be surprised if in like 2 arcs out of nowhere they just give like Krillin some big boost and he's able to fight the main antagonist, because that's all they do. They just give these really absurd, and it's so frustrating because this is a series, right, with 40 plus page chapters. They could easily have a character trained for 1 chapter, 2 chapters, 3 chapters, 4 chapters, 5, 6, 7, like just as a subplot. And then if they beat the main antagonist, I'd actually believe it because we saw them train. But they don't do that anymore because they're lazy. Just here's your random power boost. Megumi, imagine having the old man that is said to be weaker than every single other fighter in the show by the time of the Saiyan saga now be able to fight a villain who is considered one of the strongest in the entire multiverse. That is insane. Not a villain, but an antagonist, because Jiren's not a, whatever. He's the antagonist of the tournament. That's a good point. Yo, Roshi out here fighting. Jiren puts my earlier question over 18 into perspective. Well, I'm just saying that, when you have writers that just willingly just decide whoever gets to be as strong, it's entirely possible to me that if Toriyama wanted, right, 7 years have passed since the Cell Saga, he could say that 18 is now stronger than everybody except Gohan or Vegeta. Just confirm that, which is not too far from where she actually was. And then, she could fight Super Buu and blow him to pieces, and then Babidi could bring him back. And then that could, she could have destroyed him and, then be involved with actually defeating Kid Buu after he's brought back in his original form because, I don't know, Shenron made a mistake or didn't know what he looked like or whatever, or Babidi wished for Kid Buu to come back instead. I'm just saying, writers, they can decide and pick and choose. Like the Roshi and 17 stuff is insane. Roshi and 17, two of the weakest characters, able to just these amazing feats out of nowhere because we don't spend any time with them training. And I'm supposed to believe they couldn't give an 18 a ridiculous power boost, which they could actually explain legitimately via time skips and having her train with Beerus and Whis at this point. Can androids get stronger by training? I forgot. Well, originally we were led to believe that they couldn't, but then people decided they liked the androids, so they made it to where they could get stronger. But like I said, 17's power boost doesn't make any sense. He was in the woods by himself fighting poachers, and that made him the level he is. And like I said, Super's a very badly written show because all they had to do was have him go and train with Beerus and Whis and get a training montage. They could have just said, all right, you got a month to train for the tournament, and then he could have trained with them for a whole month, just day after day. It would have made total sense, and it would have been a much better explanation than he was just in the woods fighting poachers. Right, 17 probably hasn't trained much since becoming a park ranger. So that's why I said when you said, do you really believe 18 could beat Buu? It's like if Toriyama wanted to, like if they can have 17 have this massive boost out of nowhere, they could do the same thing. Toriyama could have done the same thing with 18 during the Buu saga. Could have had her and Vegeta training. I tell you, Deborah is the same level of strength as Perfect Cell. They could have just had her kill Deborah. And then, now we know she's stronger than Perfect Cell. I mean, he's strong, but he's not Gohan, Goku, Vegeta strong. I have people who actually say they believe 17 is stronger than Gohan and stronger than Piccolo. Like he's either on par with Gohan and stronger than Piccolo or stronger than everybody that's not Goku, Vegeta, or Frieza, which makes me just want to roll my eyes. Yeah, I really didn't understand that random power boost to 17. We need more content. Like I said, I have problems with GT, but that show didn't give anybody no random power boost. We saw Goku, do what he did to become Super Saiyan 4. And actually, after that, they don't really have, there's not these like big power creeps after that. It's pretty much everyone is around where Super Saiyan 4 is. Like, it has a pretty consistent power scaling from that point onward. People are so quick to call Gohan weak, though. Well, like I said, man, I was really turned off by that comment you made because, this stuff is written by people who sometimes don't feel like explaining anything, so they just randomly make characters stronger. Just like with Super, right? When that show started and we had the time skip after, I don't know there's some amount of time that happens between when Golden Frieza attacks Earth or when that happens and then when they have the first tournament. They could have just said that Videl got stronger and then she could have done the exact same thing in the Universe 6 tournament that Vegeta did. And it would have been just as believable as what happened with 17, where they just take a character who's established as being much weaker than Goku and Vegeta, and then suddenly is now on the level of them. They just don't feel like using her character, so they don't do that, but they could if they wanted to. And we know they can because they did it with 17 and with Roshi. Super Saiyan 3 was disregarded like crazy in GT. Man, when I was a kid, that was my favorite form. The long hair, no eyebrows. I thought it was so cool looking. And all it does is lose against everybody it goes up against, or like have an inconclusive fight. Like inconclusive with Fat Boo, loses against Janemba, loses against Baby. Only person it beats is Hirudegarn. I wasn't trying to be snarky or anything when I said that. I think I just communicated my point wrong. GT was honestly quite respectable and believable in terms of character abilities. Yeah, no BS power ups. Like I said, I really I think Dragon Ball has a lot of interesting characters, and I think it has really hurt itself by sticking to this formula of using the same two or three as its leads in every single story, and it sucks, you know, because I like a lot of the characters. I hate that they're not used anymore. Um, you know that's why I complain about it as much as I do, and I'll still give them credit if they do something right. Like I defended the stuff with Piccolo because I do think that between the Tournament of Power and the Broly movie, they were doing more stuff with Piccolo than they did before. But the Granola arc really set me back because they're literally not using anybody other than Goku and Vegeta. So every time it feels like, oh, they might finally be learning, they might finally be taking a step. No, dude, the Super manga is gonna have 200 chapters, and they're still gonna be doing Goku and Vegeta. It never stops. Just like the if because for my Dragon Ball show idea, it was going to be set in that year between the when Goku comes back to Earth and the end of the Frieza saga, and because I like the premise of Gohan, Krillin, and Piccolo as main characters, but it kind of like there is a part of me that does kind of hate that I like certain people are off limits. Like I can't use 18 because that that wouldn't make sense with the time. Like you know what I'm saying? Just because I think she's an interesting character that they doesn't get used anywhere near as much as she should. I thoroughly agree. There's a whole cast of characters that get ignored, like Tien, Yamcha, Gohan 18, etc. It's literally the Goku and Vegeta show. Dude, I told you, watch DBZ and you'll notice that literally Gohan, Piccolo, Krillin, and Vegeta all have more screen time than Goku. The only thing he does is sometimes defeat the main antagonist. And even then he still doesn't do it usually by himself. I mean, yeah, she's in that time period as well. It's just again, the central focus was on those three. So if she does show up, like I don't use anybody and have them just show up to get beaten up, but she would still be in it. Yeah, she even slept on for a very long time. I'm gonna have Goku's baby, and then I'm just gonna sit here and only be just the nagging mother. Let's completely forget I was a fighter. I mean, hey, you know what? If Toyotaro wanted her to be, she could. No, seriously, if they wanted her to be stronger or be on the level of whoever the antagonist is, they could do it. That's why I don't sit here and care that much for power levels and this person's weaker than that. It's like if they want, anyone could be as strong as the writer wants them to be. Exactly, dude. Just what I was thinking when I brought up. Yeah, she was the strongest woman in the world at the end of the original series, and then in Z, all she does is sit around and oh my god, the writers are capable of doing that. Well, listen, if I do end up making my own show, if she'll be in it, and I'll make sure that every season she gets at least one fight. How's that? Every 13 episode season, she gets at least one fight, one battle. People forget she's Ox King's daughter. People forget Ox King even exists. I remember one guy was like, "Who's Gohan? Who are Chi Chi's parents?" Like, you don't remember Ox King? He showed up before she did. The writers are capable of doing that. Yeah, they're capable of a lot of things. They're just lazy and they like to play it safe. See, having Gohan beat Cell was a very risky thing that Toriyama did. Just like having Goku become an adult and a parent was very risky when it happened. Um, like Dragon Ball used to be a ballsy, we do whatever we want, who cares what you think type of show, and now it's just the same old recycled story repeatedly. Too many characters were forgotten. Dude, on TV tropes, they literally have an entire page of Dragon Ball characters that are like considered wasted, and it's like it's everybody we mentioned here. They have the same thing with Simpsons. That like any long running show outside of a couple, but you get the idea that there's a whole bunch of like this is just a thing people do. They're like, forget this one. What do you guys think of the new DBZ Kakarot game? I don't like that a game that adapts all of Dragon Ball Z has it to where you can play as Goten and Trunks who are only in 1/4 of the whole show, but then you can't play as Krillin who's in all of it. That is insane to me. And then they have future Trunks in that game, and you only get to play as him twice. It's like, why is he even playable? No, I like Xuniverse. I talked about the only problem I had with Fighters was that garbage base roster it came out with, and that people try to say characters playing different is good, even though we actively admit that there are multiple characters we can play as that we don't because the way they play is different and it sucks. But playing differently is good. I was so irritated with that. Like Goku Black is my favorite. Like out of any of the characters that show up in Super, he's probably my favorite one. And they make him play like garbage. Like he's at the bottom of everyone's tier list. Like, why would I want to play as someone who I'm just gonna lose with because he sucks? I like the Trunks DLC where it showed what happened after he went back to the future. Oh, you want to turn on that movie? We gotta get Michael J. Fox in here. Other than that, it's kind of like I played this story in a dozen games over the last 15 years. Well, that's my point. Like, why play a game that's just it's the same story over and over? Like, at least with the fighting games, they were interesting because you could play as like 20, 30, 40. Remember, Budokai Tenkaichi 3 had like over 100. Like I was excited for those games because they sometimes had new characters I could play as just for the novelty of playing as that character. Now it's just take the same story, changed up a little bit. Like at least with Xuniverse, it's kind of similar to Tenkaichi 3 where there's like a bunch of characters and you can make your own character too, which is something I wanted for a long time. But it's so repetitive, man. It's feel like they only make Dragon Ball games just because they have a license. Like if they want to make a real RPG, a real like a not no BS stupid one, they would let you play as any of the protagonists. You could play as Yamcha, Tien, Videl, whoever, and you could go and like do the whole story playing as them. Like you could have Tien beat Cell, you could have Videl beat Boo. Like that would be cool because like it would be like the alternate universe type of reactions you would get. Because Tenkaichi 3 had that where um, they have this one. Basically, you can win the game by beating the villain with someone that didn't actually win. Like you can beat Kid Buu with Hercule, and Goku and Vegeta will say, "Is this a dream?" And then you can beat Frieza with Piccolo, and he's like, "I did. I avenged my people." Tenkaichi 3 beats any DBZ. Yeah, I love that game. The only reason I don't play it anymore is I don't have the console. If I had the console, I'd play that thing every day because I like it more than any Dragon Ball game that's come out since. Dude, I remember when Raging Blast 2 came out. I got that just because I wanted to play as 14 and 15 because they weren't in any other games before that. It was always just 13 by himself. Man, Megumi didn't even care about the like thing I said. The time we're using any character, regardless where they are on their list, a time we will never return to. Yeah, because now all people care about is DLC and like all this other random crap, and I start rolling my eyes. Like, how do we get to a point where we had Dragon Ball games you could play as 30, 40, 50 characters, and now we have games you could barely play as 10? Like Kakarot is so frustrating because imagine an RPG where you can play as Goku, like Saiyan Saga, right? Goku, Gohan, Krillin, Piccolo, Tien, Yamcha, Roshi, Bulma, whoever, right? And then you can have them be the one that beats Vegeta just from their training and whatnot. Wouldn't that be way cooler than, well, we're gonna have you play as a bunch of Saiyans and hope that you like it? It's like, man, so lame. Yeah, the fans, because the fans actually care. A lot of them do care about the characters that aren't the same two that we see over and over. So their stories and things that they come up with tend to be more respectful to them than the crap that comes out. Like if I did when I was talking about doing that fan show, I would have Krillin get beat up by the main villain, but then he would defeat the main villain. Like just like where Frieza is beating up Goku, but then Goku still defeats Frieza. Like it's the same premise of, yeah, this character is losing against this antagonist, but it doesn't matter or it's okay because they're going to come back and win anyway. We're not just having them get beat up to make the villain look strong. There's a narrative purpose to it as well. What if scenarios instead of these dumb side missions, like what if the game lets you kill Saiyan Saga Vegeta instead of letting them go? Oh yeah, DB Multiverse did a whole like chapter about that where they go to Namek and just they're about to make the wish, Frieza just blows up the planet. Would you get the idea that like even if the story continues mostly the same, it would just be fun to play as like anyone you want against, like that was in the story at that point, against whoever the antagonist is. Instead of always sticking to that same, story. But look, I talked on here long enough. I'm gonna go and do some stuff. If you enjoyed this, I appreciate it. Thank you, Kame. Thanks, Megumi. I guess Brandon went to go to sleep. He took a nap. Thanks, Roman King. I'll do this again on Monday, so see ya.